Guys, and welcome to this video. Today we're going to be dealing with the PC features and PC requirements for Forspoken. It was announced today on January the 17th of 2023. For the PC features, it's a DX12 Ultimate game. It has 7.1 audio. It supports the DualShock, the DualSense wireless controllers. Graphics option is customizable with aspect ratio. It is supporting super ultra wide, which means it supports ultra wide, and it has full support for HDR. Now, one of the features I'm not seeing mentioned here, but it is mentioned on the AMD website, as this is an AMD sponsor title, is that it is one of the upcoming games that features FSR 2.0. So this is the 2.0 upscaler that features temporal upscaling. Now, let's get straight into the PC specs that you are going to need to run this game. For the minimum, we have a Ryzen 5 1600 or an i7 3770. Now, for the CPU, these are two different CPUs. The i7 is much weaker in terms of multi-threaded performance, as it is only a 4-core 8-thread. The Ryzen 5 1600 is a 6-core 12-thread. So that is going to be a fairly sizable difference in the amount of cores and threads, as you know, and we don't know how multi-threaded the game is. However, given that the Ryzen 1000 series did not have strong single-threaded performance, they both are around the same thing when it comes to single-thread scores and IPCs when you consider Cinebench and stuff like that. The video card is very modest at just a GTX 1060, which most of you all have, and an RX 5500 XT. Usually the RX 5500 XT is a little faster than the RX 580, but they trade blows. Both are 8 gigabytes of VRAM. Memory is at 16 gigabytes of RAM at the minimum. Now, this minimum spec is targeting 720p 30 FPS. And it's also recommended 150 gigabytes of storage, and it's saying hard this storage at the minimum. Now, what do I think about the minimum specs? Everything seems to be in line, but I am a bit concerned that it's only 720p 30 FPS, but this is a modern game that does not target previous gen consoles. It's only targeting the PlayStation 5 and newer hardware, so we don't know how optimization is. Now, let's go straight into the recommended, and I have a problem with the recommended. The recommended is jumping from 720p 30 FPS to 1440p 30 FPS. There is no 1080p 60 FPS recommended. I find that to be an issue, as most people are still on 1080p on PC gaming, and the fact that you are not telling PC gamers what is the 1080p 60F recommendations is a problem. So let's go straight into the CPU for 1440p 30 FPS, as that is the recommended. They are recommended a Ryzen 5 3600, which is fine, and an Intel i7 8700K. Both of these are 6 cores, 12 threaded CPUs, so they perform very similar. The Ryzen 5 is going to be a little bit weaker. If you overclock the i7 is going to perform better. Out of the box, they have similar performance. The video card is where it gets interesting, because we see a very big jump, but then again, we are going from 720p to 1440p. This goes straight up to the RX 6700 XT 12GB and the NVIDIA RTX 3070 8GB of VRAM card. Interestingly, the memory also jumps up to 24 gigs of RAM, which is odd. Most people use 8GB sticks, so they will usually have a 8x8, which is 16 gigabytes. It's very rare to see someone install an 8x8x8. Usually you try to install the 4 DIMM, so you will have the dual channel memory. So this is an odd testing for 1440p 30 FPS. Now, I want to talk more about what I think here. The fact that they did not give 1080p 60 FPS to me is a bit worrying, because is the game optimized to hit 60 FPS? Is there going to be a lot of stuttering? Because this is a DirectX 12 title, so we don't know about shader compilation, and that's going to be an issue. Now, let's just go into the Ultra because I want to round this video up and not keep it too long. It has a Ryzen 5 5800X, which is a big jump from the 3600, and it also recommends a 12700K on Intel, which is another big jump. Both of these went head to head. Obviously, the i7 has the P and E cores, so it has the performance cores and efficiency cores, so it overall has more cores than the Ryzen. But both of them are very well threaded CPUs. Uh, for the video card, it goes to up to 6800 XT, which is what I have in my main gaming rig, which is nice to see for 4K 60 FPS. But suspiciously, the NVIDIA card goes up to the RTX 4080 16 gigabytes of VRAM. The 4080 is massively more powerful than the 6800 XT. It's usually pulling out about 30 to 40% more at 4K sometimes. So it's a lot more power. Um, so I find that to be a very odd choice because the 6800 XT would usually compete with a 3080 12 gigabyte or a 3080 10 gigabyte, dependent there. But I'm not sure if they went with the GeForce card being a RTX 4080 16 gigabyte because of the VRAM. Now, RAM also jumps up to 32 gigabyte, and they went from uh, SSD storage to now NVMe storage. Now, this game is featuring the features of the direct storage on PC. I'm not sure how far that's going to work out. Overall, I think these system requirements are very confusing because usually I don't think you're supposed to see that big of a difference in CPU requirements from recommended to Ultra because they're going from a 3600 to a 5800X. That's fairly, it's usually about 10 to 15% performance increase in the single core, and it's a lot better in the multi-core. So I'm not sure how demanding this game is going to be on the CPU for hitting 60 FPS, and I find that the fact that they skip 1080p 60F recommendations completely to be very suspicious. Now, what do I think about the modern gaming system's ability to handle this? Given that most people are running around a GTX 1060 level of performance, being the second most popular card on Steam, and the most popular being a little weaker, the 1650, not a 1650 Super, most people are going to be under the recommended specs because if you see the recommended specs here, it's a 3070, and most people are running 3060s, 1050 Ti's, 2060s, 1060s, and 1650 Supers. Um, this is going to be quite concerning because I would wait till see testing on this game, but if you have a good PC, you should be able to run it. Um, just keep in mind that you do have FSR 2.0. That is going to help you a lot, and I would turn that on, especially at the higher resolutions at 1440p and 4K, because that does reduce the GPU load and it will make the game usually look better because it has a better anti-aliasing, but it depends case by case, so take that with a grain of salt. Now, for the CPU requirements, I think most people should be fine, as most people based on the Steam hardware survey are running 6-core 12 threads, and most of you have modern 6-core 12 threads, so I'm looking at anything a 10400F, a 10400, a 10600K, the 8700K, right? Most of you should be fine because 6 cores 12 threads, you're going to have enough room to manage your CPU. We don't know how heavy the game is, especially with DX12, and the fact that DX12 comes with the shader compilation stutters, that could be a big issue. So just be aware of that. I hope you all enjoyed this video. If you have any questions below, leave it down below and I'll try to get back to everyone. Have a nice day. Goodbye.